Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to our video. This video is going to be about creating basic maps in QGIS. So basically, you can add some various elements to the maps you make, and you can also make it kind of look kind of pretty. You can add things like legends and scale bars and scaled out images, but yeah, so that's basically how you make maps. First off, you want to start off with something in your project tab. Now, I already have this image right here. It's of Turkey. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on project. We're going to go to new print layout. We're just going to call this Turkey test 1. Doesn't matter what you put in there, it's not going to save after you close the project. And now it brings up this blank sort of canvas almost sort of thing. So what we can do is we can add item. We're going to add map. We're going to choose an area that we want our map to take up. And we have it right here. There's several things you can do. So first off, you can tell that over here in the scale section we have something like scales 1 to 19,858,000. What we can do is we can change the scale. We can change it to 10 million, or something similar like that. And it just zoomed in a little bit. So it took a little bit of time, but it did zoom in. So I want to go back to. So it doesn't. So because this map doesn't cover the whole of Turkey, I'm going to go back a little bit. So we're going to go back to 190, and there we go. This is how you adjust the scale again. The scale is, of course, 1 to whatever is in this scale box. The lower the scale volume, the greater the zoom in, and vice versa. Now you can actually, what you can do is you can draw coordinates, or grids rather. So we're going to add a new grid, grid 1. Now we can click modify grid. Basically, we want our intervals to be a certain sort of divisor of our initial zoom in. So for example, we can see here our scale is almost 1 in 20 million. So let's try, we can go back to grid and change bring the x value, the x interval of our grid to 1 million. And our y value to 1 million. And as you can see, it adds these sort of grid lines on top. Now you can adjust the number of grid lines by saying, well, okay, or adjust the intervals at which the grid lines are showed. So for example, we have 1 million here. Now if we wanted to kind of double, or I guess double the number of grid lines on our map, we'd go back to x and y. Instead of 1 million, we would do 500,000. And down from y, we'd also do 500,000. So we get our grid lines here. Now, oops. Now if we go down, oops, sorry, wrong way. Let's see. Back to back grid properties. Modify grid. Frame. And we have here draw coordinates. So, and when we click draw coordinates, it will just give us the coordinate reference system for our grid. So yeah, that's maps and grids. I'm going to add some more elements. We're not going to add 3D map because we don't have one. We don't have any good pictures that are useful. Label. Again, this is just a text box. So for example, you can click here. And you can see on the main properties, you can type lorem ipsum here. So delete that. We'll just call this Turkey OSM map. And you can see it shows up right here. What's handy is that, of course, in the map editor, you can select the elements, even if they're kind of not selected. So there's Turkey OSM map. I can go down to font, click font, do regular style, do bold style. We can change the size of our font. So let's go for 24. Oops, 24 Turkey OSM map. It's a little bit too big, or a little bit too big for it. Well, now it's fine. Basically, yeah. So that's our label. Again, you can adjust the font here, style regular, size, color, opacity, alter the opacity. It's a little bit less opaque. And yeah, that's basically a simple label. Again, it's basically just sort of putting text on the map. Dynamic text, again, that's just very similar to our regular text. We have current date, map properties, and layout name, and so forth. Add legend. Now, this one, because this is just a regular map, because there's no sort of like graduation or coloration, what we do is if we do legend here, it's just going to show up as OSM standard. Now, if you had something like elevation or some sort of graduated information you want to display. Like for example, I think if you're drawing heat maps, then you would get a proper legend if you did the right things for it. But unfortunately, this is just an OSM map. There's nothing really to kind of act as a legend. Well, I guess you could say maybe the greens, the forested parts, but that's not supported by OpenStreetMaps. Scale bar. Okay, so scale bar is basically what it sounds like. It shows us the scale of our map. So as we can see here, we go down to segments. We have segments left 0, right 2. Click on select 1. Then it just basically gives us segments going in both directions. Now, it looks kind of weird, so I'm not gonna leave it like that. And I can just add numbers of segments. So for example, right 3. And you can see, for example, it starts from 0, goes to 250, 570. There are 3 bars here. Let's go back to scale bar. Go back down to segments. We can add 4. We can add fixed width. So for example, right now it's 250. We can change that to 300, or whatever we want. Of course, 100 is a little bit too big or too small, because again, it just doesn't show everything. So we're gonna go back to 250. We're gonna add just one more for good measure. So it's 5 segments each of 250 kilometers each. So that's our scale legend. Oh, sorry, not legend, scale bar. Add north arrow. Again, it's very simple. You just click on north arrow and click on the box you want to set it in. And I'll drop a north arrow in on there. Add shape. Again, you just add any sort of shape. It's a rectangle. Has certain properties, style. Very similar to drawing vectors on regular QGIS. Just going to delete that. And of course, you can do ellipses and triangles too. Add marker. So for example, if we clicked here, show us a little dot, and just shows a marker on the screen. So it's very simple, very easy. I'm going to delete that because we don't want it. Add arrow. Now that there's some videos out there that say that add arrow is basically just adding some lines. However, if you try it like this, for example, and yeah, so that's one way to draw a line with north arrow. Now that doesn't work. In the past, it didn't work for me, or a couple times when I tried this. So if that doesn't work, you just go to add node item. You can just go add polyline. And if you click here, for example, you can just drag and drop it down. Oops. Let's try that again. It basically does the same thing. So it draws another line here. And of course, we have HTML attribute tables. There's not an attribute table connected to it because we didn't really do any edits to our base map. Fixed table elevation profile, again, we don't have those either. So, and yeah, the final thing you might want to do is you want to try to get a zoomed in version of, or zoomed out version of our map. So we're going to do add map. Let's make it right here. It's a very similar zoom actually, so we're going to click on this. So you go to map 2, item properties, scale 610, 61 million. So we're going to go to 120 million. And that's our minimized map. So you can do a bunch of things to make this a little bit prettier. Basically, this is just the useful tools you have with regards to creating new print layout maps for from a QGIS. So you can play around with this however you want. And basically, other functions, we can just go into edit, select, deselect, basic edits, view, zoom out, snapshot grid, and so forth. But yeah, basically this is just a basic way if you make maps. Again, it's not very pretty, as I mentioned before. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.